Hey Optimancers, Chris here. So when I do builds on this channel, I often do builds that focus on control or buffing allies, and then sometimes I do builds that have a little bit of damage and something else, like they do damage and they protect their allies, or they do damage and they do control. Today, we're going to simplify things, and we're just going to focus on damage. This is a character that is solely focused on doing damage. They do have a little bit of control, and they have a little bit of other things they can do, but the focus is entirely on damage. If you would like to support this content, please check the link in the video description and it'll take you to my Patreon page. Patrons of this channel see these videos early and non-monetized, and my top level patrons can join me and play some D&D every month. Today I'd like to recognize these top level patrons: Pedro de Vaca, Philip Martin, Philip Glorvigen, Robbies, Rohit, Ryan Squire, Safes, Sajin Abraham, Scott Ballantyne, and Scott Dunnington. Thank you all so much for your support. Let's get started. So I'd like to introduce you to Whoopie Yass. And with Whoopie Yass, we are going to be using Critical Role content, so I've got that turned on. Still going to stick with official sources. Bloodhunter actually might work okay on this build, but Bloodhunter is not an official class because it was never published in a Wizards of the Coast publication. So we have Critical Role turned on mainly for Echo Knight. And I've got optional class features turned on, customize your origin turned on. Going to start with race, and since we're really just focusing on damage, just going to go ahead and take what is the best race. Custom Lineage is probably the strongest race right now in Dungeons & Dragons. A little unfortunate that the generic race became more powerful than all the other races, but that's what happened. So if we're going to make the best character we can for doing damage, we need to take Custom Lineage. For size, I'm going to choose medium, and for ability score increase, we're going to go with strength. The feat I will be starting with at level 1 is Crusher. Crusher is going to give us a +1 to strength, so now we have a total of +3 in strength, and once per turn, when we hit a creature with an attack, we can move it 5 feet, so we will have a little bit of control, and when we score a critical hit, it makes it so that all further attacks against that creature are made with advantage. So that's a little bit of buffing for the rest of the team. At some point we're going to have advantage on all our attacks anyway, so for us it's not that important, but for the rest of the group that will be an advantage. We'll grab Dark Vision for our variable trait, and the language doesn't matter. We will begin with the Fighter class. So we're going to start with Fighter. And this character will be primarily Fighter, but we will be multiclassing a lot. But Fighter will be the majority of the levels. We will be choosing 2 proficiencies. We'll go ahead and take Perception, and we will take Athletics. And then our fighting style. And for the fighting style, I'm going to choose Great Weapon Fighting. I am not a huge fan of Great Weapon Fighting. It generally just adds about +1 damage per hit. And that depends on your weapon. +1 damage or +1.3 damage is kind of the best case scenario for Great Weapon Fighting, which is just not as good as other fighting styles. But if we're going to use a two-handed weapon and we really want to focus on damage, it is a consistent increase to damage. Not as big an increase as I'd like, but if we're going to focus on damage, that should be our choice. And we get Second Wind. This allows us to use a bonus action to regain some hit points. We will definitely get a chance to be using this because this is not a defense-based character at all, so we're going to take damage, and Second Wind will give us a chance to recover some of that damage. Also, at a certain point, we will be adding Rage to this character, and then we will have resistance to a lot of kinds of damage, and then Second Wind actually kind of doubles up because you're taking half damage, but you're healing full damage. We will be using point buy here, and we're going to start with Strength maxed up, so we will begin with an 18 strength score because we took custom lineage and the crusher feat, and this will give us a better chance to hit at level 1 and more damage. Our dexterity score will increase to 13, that gives us a +1, and it opens up our ability to do multi-classing that we're going to need to do. Then our constitution, we're going to go with a 14, not as high as I'd like, but the most we can afford. And our wisdom, we are going to start with a 13. Once again, that helps us with some multi-classing. Leaves us 1 point left over. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on intelligence. For our background, we're going to take soldier for our background, of course. It's going to give us a skill proficiency in intimidation. And for our second skill, we'll go ahead and throw acrobatics in there. Then we're going to pick our starting equipment. We don't have a fantastic dexterity, so chainmail is the right armor for us. Then we're going to grab 2 martial weapons. First one's going to be the maul. This is going to be the main weapon for this character. But we'll pick up a warhammer as our second weapon just in case we ever, we're grappling somebody and we still want to hit him. Warhammer will give us something we can do with that. Then we'll grab 2 hand axes for throwing and a dungeoneer's pack. Now I will mention that if our focus was level 1, then the best feat for us actually would probably be Polearm Master and then grab a polearm instead of worrying about the strength of 18. But this character is going to end up with a very busy bonus action, and we just won't have room for Polearm Master later on, so eventually that feat would be a wasted feat. So in order to invest in the future, Crusher's the right feat for us, and this character will never have Polearm Master. But levels 1 through 4, this character would be in better shape with Polearm Master than with Crusher, damage-wise. But our damage here is still reasonably good. With our maul with great weapon fighting plus a +4 strength, we're sitting around 8.2 DPR, so we're doing fine. We have no way to burst damage or anything like that, but we're going in, we're doing reasonably good damage, we have reasonably good hit points. We're doing basically what a fighter would be expected to do at level 1. Our second level will, of course, be in fighter. Usually when you take one fighter, fighter 2 is going to follow it up for Action Surge. Action Surge will be a major feature of this character right through. This gives us our burst damage. And what it allows you to do is take an additional action on it 1 turn per short rest. And if we look at a long adventuring day, Action Surge doesn't make a big difference on your damage per round once it's all averaged out, but it does make a huge difference on 1 round. And what happens is, now we normally do about 8.2 DPR, but on 1 round of our choice, we can do 16.4 average damage. At level 3, we'll get our martial archetype, and we will be choosing Echo Knight. This gives us our Manifest Echo, which is incredibly powerful. And if you want to know all the stuff you can do with that, I've already done a video, so I will link it up above. But when it comes to just straight doing damage, Unleash Incarnation is our feature here. This is going to allow us, whenever we take the attack action, we can take an additional melee attack out of our Echo a number of times equal to our Constitution modifier, which for us is just +2. But nevertheless, what that allows us to do is take our standard 8.2 damage on round 1. If we were to use an Action Surge, now it becomes 16.4. And because whenever we take the attack action, we can add an additional attack. If we take 2 attack actions on the same turn, we can use 2 Unleash Incarnations. So 2 attacks, 2 Unleash Incarnations, for a total of 4 attacks at level 3. The average damage we would expect from this character for that kind of action, 32.8 damage at level 3. At level 4, when we get our ability score improvement, we are going to take the Great Weapon Master feat. Now, Great Weapon Master can add a lot of damage. It can reduce your damage based on the armor class of who you're fighting. When Great Weapon Master really becomes effective is if you get big bonuses to hit. Another way it can really be good is if we can get advantage. So we're going to be looking to get advantage on this character. But at this moment, this isn't adding a huge amount to our damage. But if we use it tactically, in other words, we're using Great Weapon Master against low armor class enemies, and not using it against higher armor class enemies, it actually adds more damage than averaging it all out would lead you to believe. Then we will take our 5th level of fighter, and that will give us extra attack. So with the extra attack, our base damage with an attack action now doubles. So it goes to 16.4, but we can now burst with our action surge and our unleash incarnation, and we could do about 48.6 points of damage in one round. So pretty close to 50 points of damage in a round when it's tactically appropriate to do so. At this point, we're going to leave fighter for a bit. As I said, we really want to get advantage with our attacks, and the most consistent way to do that is with barbarian. Rage gives us a bonus action. Our bonus action isn't used up right now, so might as well rage. It's going to increase the durability of this character, and we do 2 additional damage with our attacks. Danger Sense, of course, is nice. You get advantage on dexterity saving throws, as long as you see the source of the danger. But the main reason we're taking Barbarian 2 is for Reckless Attack, to get advantage on melee weapon attacks on our turn. Pretty much all our attacks are going to be on our turn. Using Strength, we're using Strength, and attacks against us have advantage. But this is not a defensive character. This character is about delivering damage. By adding that Reckless Attack, we can now use Great Weapon Master to significantly increase our damage. What would have been about a 35% chance to hit jumps up to about a 58% chance to hit. And that means we're doing about 28 points of damage on average on our turn, so 28 DPR. But if we were to burst and use our action surge and our unleash incarnations, we can now do 84 points of damage in a round at level 7. And Barbarian 2 is all we need. It's time to multi-class again. Now we're going to go into Ranger. So we'll pick up an additional proficiency. We'll grab Survival since we're a Ranger. For optional features from Tasha's, I'm assuming they're going to be allowed. So we get Deft Explorer, that gives us a couple languages, and we get 1 skill where we will be getting double our proficiency bonus. So I'm just going to fill in the languages. And the skill we want double our proficiency bonus, well, probably Athletics. That means should we attempt to grapple, good chance we're going to succeed. And remember, if we're raged and we grapple, then we would have advantage. Now, grappling isn't a major aspect of this character, not part of the standard tactics, but it's nice to have just in case you do see an advantage to shutting down an enemy's movement. Favored Foe is an easy way to add damage as long as you're not concentrating on anything. So if you're not concentrating on anything, use your Favored Foe, gives you a D4 extra damage, and it doesn't use a bonus action, and our bonus actions are going to get more and more busy as this character goes up. So I have to interrupt this video because I just gave you some incorrect information, or at least it's supposedly incorrect, but I found out something after recording, and if we look at the Rage feature, it says if you are able to cast spells, you can't cast them or concentrate on them while raging. So the way I read that is if you're a 1st level ranger and you have Favored Foe, you're not able to cast spells, so this doesn't apply to you, and therefore it shouldn't apply to Favored Foe. However, Jeremy Crawford has said otherwise in regards to a similar feature. He said, and this was specifically in regards to the Trickery Cleric's Invoke Duplicity, but essentially we're talking about a similar feature in terms of mechanics to Favored Foe, that it requires concentration as if you're concentrating on a spell. And he said you can't concentrate on a spell while you rage, and I agree with him 100% there. This prohibition applies to abilities like Invoke Duplicity that require you to concentrate on them as if they were spells. I'm not sure that matches exactly how rage is worded in the rules, but this is apparently the intent of the designers. So according to Jeremy Crawford, you can't use Rage and Favored Foe together. So I have altered the rest of this video to remove Favored Foe from combining with Rage. That's his ruling, and when I do these videos, I try to follow the rules as they're intended. So I just want to let you know why Rage and Favored Foe are not going to be combined for the rest of this video. We get an additional fighting style with this character, and I'm going to recommend Blind Fighting. It just is one of those cases where we might have our advantage taken away if we're put in something like a fog cloud or darkness, magical darkness. And blind fighting will allow us to keep that advantage. And we want to keep that advantage because that is where our damage is coming from. We're going to be able to cast Speak with Animals once without expending a spell slot. And surprise, surprise, our Ranger archetype is going to be Gloomstalker. We're going to get the Disguise Self spell. There's some utility here. Again, this isn't the focus of this character, but that doesn't mean it can't do anything but damage. When you make characters that are totally focused on one thing, sometimes inadvertently, they get the ability to do some other things. This is an example. Now, we already have dark vision, so now our dark vision is extended to 90 feet, and while in darkness, we're invisible to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in that darkness. And so some of the time, I would expect that we will be able to get advantage from this, meaning on those turns, we won't need to be using reckless attack. And on those turns, actually, our defense will be pretty good. So there's going to be a bit of a mix. Some of the times we'll be using reckless attack and our defense will suffer. Other times we'll be using the invisibility granted through Umbral Sight and our defense will be better. The main reason we're taking this, though, is for Dread Ambusher. It's going to give us a bonus to our initiative rolls equal to our wisdom modifier, so just +1. But at the start of your first turn of each combat, our walking speed increases by 10 feet, and if we take the attack action on that turn, you can make one additional weapon attack as part of that action. And if we take the attack action twice on that turn, then we will get that one additional weapon attack as part of that action both of those times. So if we action surge on round 1, this is giving us 2 additional attacks. Also, if that attack hits, the target takes an additional d8 of the weapon's damage. So not only are we getting 2 additional attacks when we action surge on round 1, but both those attacks do additional damage. This is the main reason we're going with Gloomstalker. Now we're going to pick up 3 first level spells from Ranger, and I'm recommending Absorb Elements. There's not a whole lot of things this character is doing with their reaction, probably some opportunity attacks, but most of the time our reaction should be free. That makes Absorb Elements really useful for us. Then we're going to pick up Hunter's Mark. Now, Hunter's Mark is not always the right option for offense. There's really 2 things to note about Hunter's Mark. The first is it's bonus action hungry, right? So if you have really good things to be doing with your bonus action, then they don't work well with Hunter's Mark. On the other hand, Hunter's Mark isn't always the wrong action either. I sometimes hear Hunter's Mark get really slammed on because, of course, you got Polar Master, so you're giving up an attack to do your Hunter's Mark, and that's not worth it. A D6 versus a D4 plus 15 or whatever. But the reality is, these things are nuanced. And sometimes things aren't as simple as yes or no. And when we have a character like this, who can do 8 attacks without using a bonus action, that's 8 times D6. That's 8d6. More than we could do, even if we got a bonus action attack. So sometimes Hunter's Mark is the right answer for us. And that's the way it is with these kinds of things. They're usually more complex than you often hear about online. So when you hear that Hunter's Mark is amazing, or you hear Hunter's Mark is useless, both those opinions are usually lacking nuance. And we're going to pick up Zephyr Strike. What Zephyr Strike does is it allows us to move without provoking opportunity attacks, and it allows that walking speed to increase by 30. And as a melee character, sometimes movement is a problem. Zephyr Strike is very useful in order to make sure you get where you need to go as a bonus action. And you get an attack with advantage. Probably we're going to have advantage through reckless attack if we're attacking several times. So this is going to be a little redundant, but we do an additional 1d8 force damage on the hit as well. Main thing here is there's movement when we need it. So our character is now 10th level. What we can do is if we're in a fight, we get our Gloomstalker Ambush, and our bonus action's available. So we can Rage on round 1. And now we can burst for damage on the first round of combat. It was originally 118 points of damage, but if we take Favored Foe out, it's 115 points of damage. And so what we've got is, with extra attack, we've got 2 attacks. Then we can add another one through Unleash Incarnation. Then we can add another one through Dread Ambusher. So that's 4 attacks. And if we Action Surge on round 1 and use both our Unleash Incarnations, we can do 8 attacks on round 1. That's how we're delivering so much damage. Now the Unleash Incarnations only come back every long rest. So after a short rest, we could do our Action Surge again on round 1 and we could still take advantage of the Gloomstalker extra attacks. And then we would be doing 6 attacks. So what we're going to be doing now is going back into Fighter, and we're going to take Fighter right to level 11. So at 6th level of Fighter, this is 11th level for our character, we will finally get our strength up to 20. This just improves our chance to hit and improves our damage. At 7th level of Fighter, or 12th level for our character, we get Echo Avatar, so we now become the perfect scout. This is probably a broken ability. Echo Knight is incredibly powerful, but it's not a boost to our straight offense, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. Again, if you want to check out my Echo Knight video, I talk about it a lot. And at 8th level of Fighter, we're going to get another ability score improvement. Now, I could completely ignore defense here and take something that's going to give us a tiny boost to damage, but I can't ignore defense entirely. It's just not built in me. So I do think by far our best choice here is Resilient Wisdom. We're sitting on a 13 Wisdom. This brings it to 14, and we're going to get proficiency bonus in Wisdom saves. And we do not want to fail our Wisdom saving throws. So our saving throws actually aren't bad for this character now. We're proficient in Constitution saving throws, built on a decent Constitution. We're proficient in Wisdom saving throws, built on a decent Wisdom. And we have advantage on our Dexterity saving throws. And of course, at 9th level, we add Indomitable. So we have no terrible saving throws. We have advantage on one of them, and if we fail a saving throw, we can re-roll. So our saving throws are fine, and that's pretty important, I think, actually, for an offensive character, because when you have these big hitters, and then the enemy can just dominate person them or something, then that kind of defeats the purpose of building this big damage character when you're doing the damage to your own party. Speaking of defensive options, Shadow Martyr gives us a reaction option that we can use to defend the rest of our party. But the real reason we're taking Fighter to level 11, of course, is for extra attack. Because the special thing about Fighters is they will eventually get 3 attacks with their extra attack. And if you were to take 20 levels of Fighter, 4 attacks with your extra attack. But we can do actually far more than those additional 9 levels of Fighter would give us. But 11 levels of Fighter is worth it here. So our character level is now 16. 3 base attacks. If we Action Surge, that's 6, plus another 2 from Unleash, plus another 2 from Dread Ambusher. We're now up to 10 attacks on round 1. Base damage of our weapon, it's a little over 8 with Great Weapon Fighting, plus 5 from Strength, plus 10 from Great Weapon Master, plus 2 from Rage. Because we have advantage, we should be looking at about 64% chance to hit, about 10% chance to crit. Going to add another 3.3 damage from the Dread Ambusher for each attack of Dread Ambusher, so about 6.6. Each hit we're doing is doing about 16.8 points of damage. With 10 attacks, that's 168 points of damage. And then Dread Ambusher, we have a 64% chance of each of those D8s being added. Ends up being total burst damage, 174.6 damage at level 16. Then we're going to multiclass again. And we are going to multiclass into Cleric. Cleric works nicely for us here. And we're going to take 2 levels of Cleric, and the Divine Domain we'll pick is the War Domain. Our bonus action on round 1 is largely taken, and our bonus action on following rounds may be taken. We have Great Weapon Master, and if we score a critical hit, then we're going to get an additional attack. But what if we don't score a critical hit? That's where War Priest comes in. We can use our bonus action to make an attack anyways through War Priest twice per day. So this character's bonus action is either spent raging or making extra attacks. And we're going to be making lots of extra attacks through Great Weapon Master, through War Priest. And the reason we want 2 levels is this one's a big one. Starting at 2nd level, we can use our Channel Divinity, which we get back with every short rest. To strike with supernatural accuracy, when you make an attack roll, you can use your Channel Divinity to gain a +10 bonus to the roll. You make this choice after you see the roll. So if we are attacking 10 times, we will miss at least once. Even though we will likely hit on any of those rolls, we're not going to hit 10 times. We're going to miss at least once. And if we didn't roll a natural 1, a plus 10 bonus to hit will likely turn any of those misses into a hit. So what that does is it means that when we attack 10 times with a 64% chance to hit, once we take one of those misses and turn it into a hit, our modified chance to hit is actually about 77% chance on all 10 attacks put together. That's a big bonus. We will automatically get Divine Favor and Shield of Faith. These are spells we might use some of the time. The advantage of Divine Favor over something like, say, Hunter's Mark is Divine Favor requires the bonus action to set up, but it does not require bonus action to switch targets. If we're attacking 10 times, we may be taking out 3 different enemies. We cannot use Hunter's Mark on 2 of those 3 enemies. Divine Favor will apply to all of them. And because it's not continually using our bonus action, it's also less likely to interfere with bonus action attacks we would get through Great Weapon Master, or ones we might take with War Priest. So, as I mentioned with Hunter's Mark, there's some sophistication to these things that we can't just narrow down simply on a video. Depends. If we're fighting one big, really tough enemy, Hunter's Mark is going to be doing more damage than Divine Favor. But if we're fighting several enemies and we might down some of them, Divine Favor probably is doing more damage than Hunter's Mark. And then Shield of Faith, bonus action, and you can increase your armor class by 2. If our hit points are getting low, this is maybe an option, but this is really not the focus of this character. The spells here for cantrips, of course, we'll learn Guidance. We'll grab Resistance as well. Resistance can provide you a plus D4 on a saving throw. The issue is knowing when you're going to need it, but it's still okay. And we're going to grab Thaumaturgy, because there's no other cantrip we really need, and this way we can make a big boom of thunder before we come in and whoop everybody's ass. We are able to prepare 4 additional spells beyond Divine Favor and Shield of Faith, and so we will be grabbing the Bless spell. Now the Bless spell is a fantastic spell. I would not cast it with this character unless we get a chance to prep for combat. If you get a chance to prep for combat, it's actually a great spell to cast. Probably better than Divine Favor or Hunter's Mark. But we cannot afford that action in combat to set that up. But as for how good Bless is, I'm going to actually talk about that a little bit more near the end of this video. Then we'll grab Healing Word, just a way to recover some hit points with a bonus action, or bring up a downed ally. We're going to grab Sanctuary. Sanctuary is a non-concentration spell that we can cast as a bonus action. So if on a turn we make all our attacks, and let's say we didn't end up scoring any critical hits, we didn't want to use our War Cleric ability to take a bonus action attack, so our bonus action's available, Sanctuary is just not a bad way to spend a first level slot. Cast it on yourself at the end of your turn, and any creature that wants to attack you is going to have to make a saving throw to do so. And for our last spell, might as well just grab some utility. I don't see casting any of the other spells very often, so we're going to go ahead and take this Ceremony spell. Maybe we get married and get a +2 bonus to AC for 7 days. The big reason we're taking Cleric is because we get that bonus action attacks on turns where we wouldn't have otherwise had them, and that +10 bonus to hit on that big round really adds to our burst damage. How much? Well, we can now turn 1 miss into a hit. We have a lot of options here. We could Rage with our bonus action, and that's going to give us about 18.9 damage per hit. We'll get 10 attacks, 189 points total. Add Dread Ambusher, 196.8 damage. But maybe we think Rage is for wussies, because Rage is defensive, and we just want to be offensive. Well, we could use our bonus action for an attack using, we might get it anyway through Great Weapon Master, but if we don't, then we get it through our Cleric ability, and then we'd be looking at 11 attacks for 18.5 damage each, and that would be 203.5 damage plus Favored Foe plus Dread Ambusher for a total of 213.8 damage. But do you remember what I said about Hunter's Mark before, and the nuance, and that it's kind of simplistic thinking to say Hunter's Mark is good or Hunter's Mark is bad on a damage build? Well, if we were to use Hunter's Mark here, we actually do the most damage of all, at 20.4 per hit for 10 attacks. No favored foe, but we do get Dread Ambusher. It's actually the maximum possible damage at 214.3 damage. Again, that would only work if you're fighting one big tough enemy. If you are fighting several enemies, we're definitely better with the bonus action attack for the most possible damage. And remember, this is assuming no magic weapon. If you got a magic weapon, of course, that number will be higher. So what do we do with our last two levels here? There are a number of things we could do, and honestly, it largely depends on what kind of magic items you've got in the party, because at level 18, you're going to have a ton of magic items, and who knows what they're going to be able to do, or the other members of the party, and who knows what they'll be able to do by 18th level. So what I'm going to do on this character is I'm going to throw on Druid for 2 levels, and that will take us to level 20. And Druid, of course, has an armor restriction, and that would put our armor class to suck. But again, at 18th level, who knows? We may have non-metal armors we could use instead. And when it comes to damage, this is actually a good add-on, because with 2 levels of Druid, we can take Circle of Spores. And Circle of Spores, of course, gets Symbiotic Entity. And Symbiotic Entity, when we have it active, and we can do it twice for 10 minutes, so we can do it before combat, and we might have it up most of the time. And it will add a d6 necrotic damage to all our weapon attacks. And that is significantly different than a lot of abilities that are similar to this, that add like a d6 damage once per turn. When we're adding a d6 damage once per turn, that's 3.5, and then you modify that by your chance to hit, so it's less than that. But when you're attacking 10 times in a round, or even 11 times in a round, a d6 on every attack is 10d6 or 11d6. That's actually quite a bit of damage when you add it up. So we are giving up defense, but we're gaining a fair amount of offense. We're also getting a few temporary hit points. And your Hail of Spores technically can do a little bit of damage. I'm going to ignore that because it's so crappy. But Symbiotic Entity absolutely adds to our damage. Now we're going to get some more spells. In fact, we're going to essentially be a 5th level spellcaster. We're going to have 3rd level spell slots, no 3rd level spells. For cantrips, I'm just going to take, some utility stuff. Mold Earth, Shape Water, they could come up. There's no point in us taking an attack cantrip here. We're going to throw Cure Wounds. We got a couple 3rd level slots. Maybe we'll need to recover some hit points. We're probably going to have a crap armor class, so good chance we will need to. Good Berry, another way to recover some hit points. And then Jump and Long Strider, which just increase our maneuverability, and we may or may not need that. Neither of them require concentration. But our base weapon damage, a little over 8 with Great Weapon Fighting, plus 5 from Strength, plus 10 from Great Weapon Master, plus 3.5 from Spore Druid, with 77% chance to hit, 10% chance to crit. Add our favorite foe and Dread Ambusher, about 240 points of damage in burst damage at level 20 on round 1, spending all our resources. But I just want to go off topic for a little bit here. Let's say this character isn't your character, but another person in your party. On round 1, they're going to average about 240 points of damage, and you are a cleric. Let's say you cast the Bless spell on them before their attacks. That would have added 2.5 to hit on average. That would change that 77% chance to hit to 89.5% chance to hit. The new damage that character would be doing, 279 points of damage. So just by casting that one 1st level spell, you have done 39 points of damage. Except Bless isn't cast on one person. It is cast on 3 people. Let's say you had 3 similar characters you cast it on. That would be 117 damage, and that's more than just the potential damage. That's the average damage you'd be doing. Now, let's just compare this for a moment. let's say instead of casting a first level spell, you're going to cast a higher level spell. Maybe you are a Divine Soul Sorcerer and you had Bless, or you have 6th level Disintegrate. Well, if you cast the Disintegrate spell and the target fails their saving throw, you would do, on average, 75 points of damage. That is less than you would expect from that first level Bless spell. Then, let's say you are casting a 9th level spell. Let's say you're a Cleric and you decide that, you know what, I am going to cast a 9th level spell slot on my Spirit Guardians. Because Spirit Guardians, of course, scales really well. So you cast a 9th level spell slot on the Spirit Guardians. For each target, if they failed their save, you'd be doing about 40 points of damage. So in order to do as much damage with that Spirit Guardians on the first round as a first level Bless spell, you would need to hit 3 targets with it, and they would all need to fail their saving throw. And if you were casting 3rd level Spirit Guardians or anything in the lower level range, it wouldn't even compare to what that first level Bless would do for you. And the reason I bring this up is because I've had some conversations recently where people talk about how spellcasters are better than non-spellcasters and casters are better than marshals, and I tend to agree with those things. I think casting is incredibly effective, and I think it's fun too. These kinds of damage characters, they're not my cup of tea. But I do think if you have them mixed with spellcasters, you just can't beat that. To be able to do 192 points of damage in one round with a first level spell absolutely relies on having those martial characters to boost. And that's where spellcasters really shine. That's where spells like Bless really shine, is when you have characters like this that are focused on damage. Which is why I still say, even at 20th level, I think the best party is a good mix of casters and marshals. And there's a whole build just to make that point. And it's easy to say this in theory, but I've been running one-shots where we've been doing super high level for months now. I'll run 5, even sometimes 6 sessions per month with a group of level 15 plus characters. And it's the same adventure for those 5 or 6 groups. And I see all kinds of mixes. And the best mixes over and over and over again. And the data pool here that I'm building is actually pretty big. It is just overwhelming how much I see the mix of martial and caster work better than all of one or all of the other. So that's all I have to say on that. And that concludes Whoopee Yass. Hope you enjoyed it. Otherwise, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.